Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the AAPI Leadership Lab brought to you by NAP Las Vegas. Today, we have a very special guest, May Kane. She is the founder and CEO of Shoes for Scholars. Welcome to the show, May. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is so cool.
So, we'll jump right into it. So, we're going to talk a little bit about your journey today. Tell us a little bit about you, where you grew up, uh, what school you went to. What was it like growing up? We'd love to get to know you a little bit.
It's cool because when I moved here, it was in 1991. I was born in Virginia, which a lot of people
Mm.
don't know. Totally random. My parents were working in DC and they realized they needed a lot more help. And so we moved out to Vegas in 91 when Eastern was just a dirt road. There was no freeways. I remember it was just a bunch of hills, like dirt hills is what I remember. But I grew up here and I went to kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, college here as well. I went to UNLV, got my degree in biology. And that was, I think, driven by what my passion was at the time was I wanted to go into medicine.
Mm.
So I had a really great and interesting childhood because my dad worked two full-time jobs and my mom worked during the day. So we never really saw our parents a lot. And you hear those stories where the kids are like, well, we raised ourselves and we were outside playing and, no one was ever around. And that truly was our story. I have one older sister. She's about 2.5 years older than me. And we pretty much ever since the age of 3 and she was 5 kind of raised ourselves. We were at home, we cooked everything. We did dishes at the age of, I remember being 6. No, I would have been 5. I was in kindergarten and doing dishes. And
Wow.
my sister was doing laundry. And also, what else is really funny is that Thai was my first language because my parents didn't speak English. So I had to learn to adjust knowing Thai fluently and going to school and just trying to retrain my brain to be like, wait a minute, they're saying this.
Mhm.
I want to respond this way. So it was fun. I mean, we had a unique childhood. My parents worked really hard for us to have what we had, which is pretty much just make sure we had food
Mhm.
and some clothes on our back and just being able to attend school. So we did the bus rides, we walked to school. And as I got older, I knew I was going to go to college. I didn't know where I was going to go. And UC Irvine was my dream school. I'm like, that's where I'm going to go. I mean, I don't know why. I can't remember. I think it was a group of the valedictorians were like, we're all going to UCI. I was like, me too. But then I got, nervous of moving away. So I ended up going to UNLV, which I loved. I loved the campus. I had a great experience. And I did get my degree in biology there. And yeah, that's pretty much, my educational background as growing up. I had we were very independent.
Yeah.
That's what I think of. I'm like, if I could think of anything, I was like, how could I describe it? They're very independent kids.
So, what was it? A couple things. One, you mentioned your parents needed help. Did you have family in the Vegas area already, or?
I did.
Okay.
My grandmother on my mom's side lived here with my mom's aunt. So
Okay.
they
Okay.
moved out here. My parents, I don't know the full story, but they moved here from Thailand. They got married in the States. We lived in Virginia for about 3 years, moved out here because my grandmother was already working here in the casino industry with
Mhm.
my aunt. And my mom's like, okay, we're going to move there because originally my dad's sister was in DC and that's how they ended up in DC. But
Uh,
they just needed someone that was going to be able to watch us because, we were at home by ourselves at the age of 2 and 4. And obviously you can't do that.
right.
That's not allowed anymore.
Yeah.
So
There's
times
some
have
legal
changed.
things that are wrong with that.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, right.
so, tell us a little bit what it was like to grow up in Vegas in the '90s, because that was like before the boom, right? Like the boom was like in the late
Oh,
'90s, right,
yeah.
early 2000s. So, what was it like? Was it super diverse? You didn't really speak English well. Was it hard to adapt? What was that like?
No. You know what? I didn't feel at that time that it was that hard. But as I look back on my report cards growing up, like in kindergarten, I was like, wow, I didn't really know my letters that well. I didn't really know how to pronounce CH or SH correctly, or, certain words like chicken or just random things like that. In terms of diversity, we originally moved like northern Las Vegas on the east side,
Hmm.
which, if anyone's familiar with the area, it is a little bit more diverse and it's a little bit different than living in, let's say, Summerlin or Henderson. So we only lived there for a short period of time, and then we moved more south to eastern 215 area.
Hmm.
And I feel like because it was newer, the group of kids that were in the neighborhood, you just had to be friends, like, because there was nobody else there, like that was your only
Right.
little circle around you. And so we all became really close, and they were very patient with me learning English and just trying to adapt to a different kind of culture, because my parents are very diehard Thai family. Like, it's very traditional, it's very proper. You don't hear us say why or what or no to the parents. It's they say something, you do it. Very strict family household, bedtime, cleaning, things like that.
Hmm.
So I think it was cool for my friends to kind of see that side, and then for me to be able to see their side of the family, of how, they run things a little bit differently. So I would say, in terms like just adjusting, it took a while, but it was good because I had a good group of friends.
That's fantastic. Yeah, like that's probably the besides your parents, they're probably the most influential
Mhm.
folks growing up. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because that's, as a kid, that's all you know.
Hmm.
You don't know anything else other than your family, your group of friends that's in your neighborhood who's riding your bikes with you before the street lights turn
Right.
on,
Right.
and then your school. Like, so the teachers and the admin, mainly the teachers.
Right. So
Yeah.
want to get into what was what was little May's dream? So you said you got a biology degree, but even before then, even in middle school, high school, what was the dream?
So when I was in third grade, I would say, like, kindergarten, first and second, I didn't even think about, like, what am I going to be when I grow up. But in third grade, I remember specifically saying to myself I was going to be a teacher. And it was because how impactful my third grade teacher, was to me in my life, that I'm like, I'm going to be just like her. And I remember very distinctly how her facial expressions, how kind she was, like her outfits, her hair, just and how she ran the classroom. She was more strict. Now that I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, she was kind of a strict third grade teacher, but it was great for all of us, because then, or else we'd all be running around. And then in fourth grade, I had another great teacher. Like, I'm going to be a fourth grade teacher. Fifth grade, same exact thing. It wasn't until I got to middle school where I said I was going to be a doctor. And that was because my best friend, her dad was a doctor. And
Mhm.
he was so cool. He was fun. He was, just had a great personality. And being a, he was, they're from the Philippines. And for me, it's like, oh, there's a connection. We're both Asian. He's a doctor. He's successful. And that was the first time I started realizing what the professional field looked like, and what does it take to get there. And then I started studying a little bit more and researching. And I never even thought of any other industries other than medicine.
Mm.
So from sixth grade until I did a report, and I think it must have been either sophomore or junior year, like, what are you going to be when you grow up? And, as I was mentioning, it went from being a doctor or being a teacher now to being a doctor. And now it's being a pediatric cardiovascular surgeon.
Oh wow.
Like, that was a very defined, like,
Yeah.
what are you going to be? I'm going to be something in pediatrician or pediatrics, and then something cardio, because I love the heart, and I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix children's hearts. That's what I'm going to do. And so that was where I ended up, and then wanting to go to UNLV to do pre-med, and or getting the biology degree.
Ah, so the
Mhm.
dream teacher to doctor, and we'll get into it, but that sounds very
Yeah,
full circle.
it does. Yeah, I mean, the conversation continues, you'll
Yeah.
see it's like, oh,
So
May circled right back into
yeah, let's
it.
get a little bit into that.
Mhm.
So like what made you decide to start a nonprofit? Because you could have done a lot of things. You could have gone into medicine, you could have been a teacher, but you
Mhm.
decided to
I
dedicate yourself to this. So let's
I
talk a little bit about it.
did. I one of the requirements when you're in high school, I think everyone knows you have to do volunteer hours, and it looks good for the resume when you're trying to apply to medical school or anything, right? The volunteer hours, what are you doing back for the community and your internships? And I didn't do any of that stuff. And I was like, I should probably do something now that I'm a senior. So I graduated high school 2006, and I was like, where can I volunteer? I'm just Googling something, and Stand Up for Kids came up, and they were looking for an executive director. And I'm 18 years old, might I mention. I'm like, executive director, that sounds good. So I applied for the position and I got it. They gave me the
Nice.
position to be an executive director of a nonprofit here locally. I'm like, oh my gosh, I did. So, anyways, I got very lucky because I had a really good group of people that wanted to be a part of it as well, just from all different walks of life. I had never met them before. And we drove the organization for a few years, and it was a lot of fun. And I knew that made me feel great. Like I enjoyed doing something that I wasn't expecting anything back, right? I was just
Hmm.
doing it because I wanted to. And it wasn't because I was going to get a paycheck. It wasn't because I was going to get a pat on the back. Because I've never been that way. Like I never needed much reassurance of what my actions were. But I just wanted to know within myself that what I was doing was a good thing. And so that story wrapped up. And then I moved over to a few different jobs for fun, just like part-time jobs while I was going to college. And then I joined the American Diabetes Association and had the most amazing manager. She was vibrant. She loved what she was doing. I was helping her, and I don't even know if I was even that much of a help, but it was fun and I enjoyed it again. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I really do love nonprofit. And then I graduate college. I'm like, what am I going to do? I guess I'm going to go to medicine. And I was like, I am not a medicine person. It was just not, I knew that I was forcing myself into the situation and it wasn't organic. And I didn't want to be that person who did that. Like, if you're not happy or
Hmm.
fully confident in what you're doing, you're not only going to hurt yourself, you're going to hurt others along the process. So
Yeah.
I removed myself from that thought. And then I went into an industry where I was marketing for a medical company. And what I realized along the way, I was like, okay, I'm still in the medicine field. That's cool. I guess I kind of did something with that. But my job mainly was just talk to people all day. It was like making friends, making relationships, building relationships. And that lasted for almost a decade, about 10 years.
Oh,
But
wow.
in that time frame, what I realized was that our sister company had a nonprofit and I wanted to run it so bad. I was like, I will do it for free. I don't care. Like, I just want, and that innate desire of just constantly wanting to do something in the nonprofit world, like it wouldn't go away. And then one summer, I was like, maybe I'll just do something with kids and food. Like, what do kids eat during lunch or during the summer if they're getting free lunches during the school year? And I kind of went around that idea for about a year. That didn't, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna let that go. And then finally, the opportunity came where I was talking to my old cheer coach, who is a vice principal at one of the schools. She's been in the district for 20 some odd years. And I was like, you know what? I was like, what do you think the need is? If you had to say, this is what's missing in the puzzle, what would it be? Like, how would I fit in? Because she's like, May, we don't need any more organizations that's going to give us free stuff. There's a ton of wonderful organizations out there that provide shoes, clothes, closets, food, and these resources that we can reach out to. She's like, what we need is for someone to provide the students a reason to care. And she's
Mm.
like, and to care as in their education. And, a lot of people, some people, actually, maybe a lot of people don't even know, we're ranked 47th in the nation as a state. Like 47, like we're just shy of just being bottom tier. And it's always blown my mind because I knew that statistic ever since I was young, because I have always felt that my teachers and my education was awesome. I felt that I cared about school. I loved it. I loved the environment I was in. I don't know if I was just lucky or if it was, I don't know. I'm not sure. But either way, I didn't feel like we deserved to be 47th. And so I did a little research. Her and I sat down a little bit more. I sat down with a couple of other admins, and we really loved this idea of we're providing an incentive for our students to work hard and get rewarded for that hard work. And it's not just getting an A on a report card, but it's getting something tangible and like a luxury item that a lot of these students never got to, aren't probably not capable of always having because the parents can't afford it. But I think what's interesting is to circle back is that when I was in third grade, the reason why something with students or kids resonated was because I remember being that student who had holes in the shoes, who had used clothes, who I would have to think about what was I wearing and, like, okay, this is kind of getting old and having to think about that as a third grader.
I'm
And
sure
I
you're
just
wearing your
knew,
sister's, like, because you have an older
oh,
sister. Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. It was my sisters, it was my neighbors, like
Yep.
who were my friends, or it was just kind of whatever we had. And I think that was the reason why I was either going to go into pediatrics or I was doing something with Stand Up for Kids or juvenile diabetes or it was always kid oriented. And
Hmm.
it never clicked to me why I always had that desire to help children. But now, as these last 3 years of doing the organization, I'm like, yeah, because you went through it. It's like, because I remember how important it was for me to have my support system, which was, yes, my parents were working hard, but my support system was strangers at school,
Hmm.
strangers who were my neighbors, strangers who knew nothing about me and just wanted to help.
Yeah. So that's amazing. And let's talk a little bit about the journey because it's not
Mhm.
easy as easy as people think to start a nonprofit. Like you don't just go out and like all of a sudden you just do good. So let's tell us a
Right.
little bit about some of the challenges that you had to face. And maybe even 3 years later, like what are some of the challenges that you still face?
Well, so nonprofit, although it's nonprofit, is still a business. And I have never ran a business before. I've always marketed for a business. So you hand me a platter and you say, run with it, right? Like, here's the wording, here's the pamphlets, here's the website, these are the clients you go to. And I can thrive with that because to me, if I could just build a relationship, I could do that because I love people.
Hmm.
But with the nonprofit world, that's great because that's the fundraising, that's the sponsorship side. But the business side, the back end side, where it's the paperwork, the filling out of forms, you got to do the IRS stuff, like that gives me anxiety because I am not great at things like I don't enjoy it. That's not something I have always wanted to do, where it was like the back office stuff.
Hmm.
But for me, what was the biggest challenge was learning to enjoy that because I knew that if I was miserable doing it, it wouldn't succeed. So I would have to train myself to say, this is fun because you're learning something new and you're going to excel in something that you're learning because this is your baby. This is your business. This is your nonprofit. It's your name now. No one else is going to drive this other than you. And so that was the first, I would say, 6 months. I got really lucky because I met with an agency who helped me do the filings of getting the 501c3
Hmm.
license, which is very difficult to get. And I did it right after COVID. So it was backed up and it was supposed to take a year, but I actually got done in a month. So
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
oh my gosh. I was like,
So
I
fast.
was thinking I got a year to plan and put my ducks in a row. And they're like, you got it. I was like, oh my goodness, that took 30 days. Like, I'm not ready. But then having to get the website and just learning so many different things that are required for a nonprofit to be functional. So you have to have a board, you have to have bylaws, articles of corporate. I don't even know those words. I'm like, I just kind of thought you just start a nonprofit and you just do good things.
Right.
But it's for me, the challenge was the back end things. And I was doing everything by myself. Fast forward to now we're at year 3. There's still a lot of things that I feel that I need to do by myself, but my biggest learning curve is realizing you do not need to do anything by yourself. Like, you don't have to do it alone.
Hmm.
And this is the first year that I've built a events committee. We have a strong board. We have a consultant. We have someone who handles our PR and media. And this has been the most easy. I wouldn't even say easy, but relieving 30 days to, I would say, the past 90 days that I've had for the last 3 years. And it's just because I know I have people I can count on who maybe have other things going on, but they still want to help. And it might be something as little as, hey, can you send the emails out to different schools inviting them to this event? And to be able to have someone that will handle that so I don't have to do it is great. Or social media content or flyers,
Yeah.
invites, just things like that, right? And for me, just being able to learn to let go and delegate and enjoying the letting go and the delegation has been the biggest learning curve for me because I've never done that. I've always just done everything on my own. Like, what's the job role? What's the duties? Okay, I'm going to take it by myself. And I feel like because of doing that, we in this last year have grown so much more and quicker than the first 2 years.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Um,
Mhm.
what would you say for you? Because this probably would be a good learning moment for other people. What was the biggest blocker for you for accepting or even asking for help? Like what made you feel like you had to do it yourself?
I would say there's two things. I think one being rejected. I didn't want to ask and they say no.
Hmm.
And it's not because I grew up and always hearing yes all the time, because but in something like this where it's so personal and it is your baby and it's something you're growing yourself and you're so passionate about it, to ask for someone's help and then just be like, I don't get it. No, I don't really want to help. Like that to me was my biggest fear. And then also delegating something that I felt like maybe May, you could have just done yourself. Don't worry about it. Or is it going to be done incorrectly because you delegated it, or is whatever the case may be. I think that trust, like being able to trust somebody to do something for your own business, is very scary. But I haven't had that many no's when I've asked, and I've also haven't had really major mishaps by delegating either. So I'm like, this anxiety of having negative outcomes wasn't even real and never even happened. So,
Yeah.
just being able to let that negative feeling in your head go. And it's just like the starting the business. It took me about a 10 to, it sounds really long, but 10 to 12 year in the making of deciding to actually start the nonprofit. Because I spent days just thinking like, what can I do? What should I do? And I remember being on my floor, I had a white poster board with markers. What am I going to name this nonprofit? What are we going to focus on? And um, something had to do with like earth back in the day. Cause I'm like, well, maybe I'll do where, I can get kids to do planting and we'll do earth stuff. Or maybe I can teach kids how to cook, even though I don't know how to cook. Like just, it morphed into it has evolved in so many different things to where it is today. And I really think, to go back to your question, the biggest thing was fear.
Yeah.
That's what really set me back, was fear.
Yeah, it's the thing where most businesses fail, and it's a simple thing to ask for help. And I have a um, acronym for fear. It's false expectations appearing real. It's the story we tell ourselves, even though
Yeah.
it's not rooted in any fact. Because I bet you, if you went right now, even to like a grocery store and ask some random person, "Hey,
Mhm.
can you help me lift this up?" They'll do it. But we still
Right.
have this fear that like, oh, but if I ask for help, they what if they say no? Well, what if they say yes?
Hmm.
So I'm
Right.
so like you are teaching people a great lesson that once you get over your fears and and really know that the fears are rooted in not anything real, you can accelerate your
Right.
business. You can be successful at whatever you put your mind to, as long as you have experts around you that leave it to the experts, right? So I'm not
Right.
great at a lot of things. Like I'm not great at operations. I'm like good at creative and doing those things. So if I can hire someone or have help someone help me with operations, we'll move faster.
Right.
Yeah, and
Absolutely. And I actually really like your acronym because, the other day I was at the airport. It's a very long story, but I had to get through TSA as quickly as possible. And I was with a friend of mine, and we had to be at a gate, and it was in less than 7 minutes. And I'm like,
wow.
okay, we got to take the tram. It's a whole thing. And she's like, should we ask someone if we can cut? And it was that fear. I'm like, they're going to say no. They're going to get mad. They're going to be like, absolutely not. Get in the back of the line. And it wasn't even that. It was, I explained why we need to go now. And they're like, yeah, absolutely go. And we probably wasted a good minute or two just being like sweating and just like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And everyone's like, why are these two freaking out right now? And then I had said it kind of out loud and they're like, you can go ahead and go. I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. And that would have just, had I just not falsely had this appearance in my head of what might have happened, we would have saved time. I wouldn't have had to run so fast.
Yeah.
And, it's the same thing with this. I don't think I would have spent 10 to 12 years thinking about what will people think, how, what if I fail, or what if it doesn't take off, or what if, I ask for help and they say no. And it's like, well, what if they do? And, I did myself a disservice, but I'm so glad that I'm slowly, and I'm still learning to do it now, is slowly ask for help and be okay if they say no, because not every, like, I can't expect everyone to say yes.
Hmm.
And realizing that has nothing to do with that what I'm doing doesn't make sense or it's not great or whatever. It's just that it might not work for that person right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful lessons, absolutely. So
Mhm.
I want to go a little bit deeper into what Shoes for Scholar is. So tell us a little bit about the organization itself. So what is the mission? What do you all do? We hinted at it,
Mhm.
like incentivizing
Yeah.
kids, but tell us a little bit more about Shoes for Scholars.
So it's awesome because I feel like we're unique in a sense where we partner with local Title I middle schools. So that's sixth, seventh, and eighth grade schools. In Title I, that means 85% of the students have to be on some sort of government assistance, financial hardship. They get free lunch and breakfast. Um, and they are in certain areas of our city, or our county. And for me, the reason why I wanted to focus on those schools is because those are the schools I went to. And the reason why I chose sixth, seventh, eighth grade is because that is such a turning point of time in a student's life where you're kind of figuring out what group you're going to be a part of, what do you like and don't like. You're building true study habits now because you're on your own. They start trying to teach you more independence at that time. And so us as Shoes for Scholars, we partner with those. And what we do is we provide fun, I say they're fun, incentive programs. And we reward students with new shoes when they meet their goals academically. So these incentive programs are designed to help students perform better and meet their goals on their standardized testing. And the problem with their standardized testing is that it's not a pass or fail. So you take it, you can sit there, you click it through, be done in 10 minutes and move on. Where some of our ranking for the state is based on these scores. So if you have, let's say, 100 out of 200 students, so 50% of students who don't care, they're just clicking, that's lowering our state ranking. And so my idea was, well, what if we incentivize them to care, right? And want to study and
Hmm.
then want to perform well. And the idea behind that as well is that they're building confidence in their test taking skills. So not even just standardized testing anymore. Now it's just their regular day testing, their math test, reading, science, whatever the case may be, where they're not looking at it as oh my gosh, now I have to go and take this test. It's, I'm working towards something. I'm going to take this test. I'm going to do well. I'm going to meet my goals. And I'm going to get rewarded with a brand new pair of shoes. And what's really cool is that we do name brand shoes only. So they're going to be stylish. They're going to be great. It's going to be something I would wear. It's going to be something that, my family would wear. And to me, that was really important. I want them to be proud of what they have accomplished and also be excited about what they're getting as well. Because, I think these days, the stickers and pencils and the chips, it's great, but I don't think it's going to cut it.
Hmm.
I think to get a student to really designate themselves for 6 to 8 weeks of studying, to be able to say, all right, here comes the day, it's December 10th, I'm taking my map score or my map test, and my goal is 206 points. I'm going to meet that goal plus more so I can be a part of this party and get rewarded with new shoes. And that's the idea of what we're trying to cultivate, is that we're celebrating their hard work. I think a lot of times we are seen as that we're just giving out shoes, like an organization that gives out shoes to students. And that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're more educational based. We're focused on their education and their successes, and we reward them with the new shoes because it's an item that a student can be proud of, but also the parents too.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping that the parents are like, you better study and you better work hard so you can get those pair of shoes, because it takes off that burden on them to have to go and, that's money that a lot of these parents and families don't have and they can't afford it. So
Yeah,
that's what we
that's fantastic. Yeah, and
Mhm.
that's the highest ticket item, right? Like I have kids in school. The highest
Absolutely.
ticket item is the shoes, right?
Oh yeah,
That's
it
always the
is.
highest
And
ticket.
it's the one thing you have to go
Hmm.
to school.
Yeah.
You can show up without a backpack, you can show up without a pencil, you can show up without a calculator, but you have to have shoes in order to go to school. And to me, you know, it's like the stepping stone. Like you put your shoes on and then you go to school, you perform, you do well, you get rewarded, and then you continue on. Because I think about as us as adults, when we do a job, we perform well, we get a paycheck. That's like our reward, kind of,
Hmm.
or our PTO, whatever it
The
is.
incentive.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and with the students, it's, what are their incentives? Is it to get, you know, a report card with a printed A on there? I don't know. I don't know if that excites kids anymore. I'm not sure, but what I've seen is that this excites them, and they are really encouraging one another to study and to do well, because we don't cap how many students can get rewarded.
Yeah. And there, for some students, the education is incentive enough, but for some, you just need that little extra, and that will
Correct.
always help. Uh,
And I think actually it's more than not. I think a lot of students really just want to be there to socialize, to have fun, or, because they're told that they have, like, it's just part of their routine. They have to go to school where, and they show up and they get their attendance, and maybe they'll do the bare minimum. But if we can do something to give a little extra push, a little bit of extra excitement
mhm.
to go to school and do well, then why not? And I think, it kind of really goes to who I am as a person, is that I really love celebrating people. I love celebrating success. I really love seeing people grow. I love seeing people grow their business. I don't know if that was like the cheerleader beside, like, in my past, that's what I did. So I really like cheering people on, but I don't feel that you can over celebrate.
Yeah.
I think by bringing positivity and happiness and excitement to the schools, I think it's great. I think it takes away from the everyday monotony or mundane, or maybe their drama or their stress that they have personally, and to be able to focus on something positive and exciting, and it's about their success and their hard work, because I'm not really doing anything. I'm just bringing the party and the fun. It's them who's putting in the work. It's them who's going to school every day and trying to excel. And for me, I'm like, you deserve to be like celebrated for that.
Absolutely. So if people want to help out, so if people want to participate, how can people participate? Whether it's donating, volunteering, where take this as an opportunity to ask for more help. So if people wanted to help, like
Well,
how could they
I
help?
love that, because obviously in the nonprofit world, it's not traditional where you have a bunch of staff members who are they clock in, clock on, they're helping every day, right? So um our organization is only possible through our funding, and we get those funding through whether it might be personal fundraisers, or sustainable donors, where we have a couple of really cool people here in town who just gives us, you know a gift once a month or every quarter or once a year, which is great. But we have really awesome and fun events that we do every year. Like we have our golf tournament. We're doing our first 5K race this year. We have pickleball. We have a bunch of different events that's all listed on our website as well. And the biggest thing is to have participation. Come out, enjoy the event, come hang out with us, come meet us, come learn a little bit more about us, or just have a really good time with your friends and family. And then you can always sign up online on shoesforscholars.org, or we're always looking for volunteers to also help with these events, whether it's setting it up, prepping, just doing word of mouth, or coming day of to be a part of the event. Like our 5K event, we need to have 100 volunteers. And, that's a lot,
Hmm.
but people are wanting to they want to come, they want to help. So it's awesome. And we're also always looking for people to come help. purchase the shoes with us. So once we get the students' names and the list of their shoe sizes, we go and we might buy like 90 pairs at a time. So imagine me trying to take 90 pairs of shoes back to my car. So it's always so nice when we get a group of people to come out and help and purchase the shoes and pick it out for the students. And I think that's a really fun experience too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we love partnering with you.
Yeah,
So it's always a
it's
good
been
time.
fun.
Yeah, it's always a good
You've had some
time.
good sides.
So shoesforscholars.org if you want to help
Mhm,
out. And yes, it sounds like if you are looking for an opportunity to help, the 5K,
mhm.
I'm probably going to be in the golf tournament whenever that is. Um,
Yeah,
because I love playing golf. Okay.
good.
So
Yeah, next year it's August
if
every year.
if people want to reach out to you, we'll put the link in the show notes. So shoesforscholars.org if you want to help, you can go there. Um,
Mhm.
so now kind of going back to you, knowing everything that you know now, everything you went through, wanting to be a teacher, wanting to be a doctor, growing up where you did the way you did, and then building a nonprofit, what advice would you give your younger self after going through all of those things?
Ooh, do it. Whatever it is, just, you know, do it and do it with full intention. Be intentional in whatever it is that you're deciding, whether it's you want to be a teacher, you want to be a doctor, you realize you don't want to be a teacher, you don't want to be a doctor. Own it. It's okay. It's okay to not have the answer, but whatever it is you decide to do, do it with full intention. And don't doubt yourself, because that, as we mentioned, that was my biggest thing, was that I lived for 10 to 12 years. I can't remember. I think it's 12 years of this nonprofit idea of just doubt for whatever reason, just by myself, this own monologue in my own head of being doubtful. And now I look at it, I'm like, man, in this 3 years, we have accomplished so much. Imagine where I would be if it was 10 years ago or 12 years ago. And maybe timing wasn't right, but I know for a fact it was doubt. And if I would have just believed in myself and just did it with full intention, gosh, the sky would have been the limit, right? But I don't regret it. But it is something, if I was younger and I could go back, I would say just do it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about fear, having fear, and I think it's okay to have fear. It's when you let it
Hmm.
dictate your actions, right? So like that false
Absolutely.
expectations appearing real. If you're afraid for it and you have doubts, that's probably means it's worth something to you, right?
Right.
It probably means it's worth doing. And so listening to
Hmm.
that more as opposed to the reasons not to do it. Uh, and
Right.
asking yourself what so in the example you gave with the airport, what's the worst thing that could happen? Someone says no, right? Like, no. Or
Right.
what's the best thing that could happen? What actually happened? Go right
Correct.
ahead.
Absolutely. And it was like, my face was like, oh, really? Okay. Well, and that was like, because I was almost shocked that it was a positive outcome. And I don't know why. And that shouldn't be the case. It should be, like you mentioned, what's the worst that's going to happen? They say no. Okay, you're still in line anyways.
Mhm.
But best case is now you're not in line anymore because they said yes and they did. And it was a very, that relief at the same time, like, wow, May, like you just sat there stressed out for 2 minutes for no reason, like sweating here for whatever reason. And, and you're right, it is okay to have fear. Fear is natural, it's part of our makeup, but don't allow it to define who you are, and don't be a limitation to it.
Absolutely. It in
Mhm.
lots of ways, fear is what drives us, right? Because
Right.
if you take
Hmm.
that same fear of failure and instead of let it control you, let the fear of failure drive you and
Right.
determine you that I'm not gonna fail
Mhm.
no matter what. And if I do stumble along the
Absolutely.
way, that's okay because I'm gonna get back up and
Mhm.
just keep going. And I'm sure you've hit
And
that.
learn from it.
Yeah, and I'm sure in the
Yeah.
last 3 years, you've stumbled, maybe even said, "Hey, can I do this?" But here you are
Yeah.
3 years later.
Absolutely. I mean, I would not even guess that I would be running, a golf tournament, a 5K tournament, or not tournament, a race. And, all these things where I just thought we were going to be getting, some shoes and dropping it off. But where we're at now, you know, I, I knew, I think deep down, this is what I wanted and this is where we would take it. I just didn't realize how quick it would be. And I'm glad that we did it. And I'm glad that we're moving in the pace that we are.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Um, okay, so it's about time for us to wrap. Is there any last message that you have, May, for anyone listening before we wrap up?
Um, Honestly, if I could say something, it's I really want us as a community to realize how important it is to, you know, celebrate one another and cheer each other on. You know, when someone's feeling down, bring them up. A simple smile, a hey, you're killing it. Something like that makes such an important impact on someone's life more than you know. Even when I hear it, and I'm a full grown adult who's running a business, who's got kids, a family. Where if I even something as simple as like, hey, May, you're doing good. You're in the right direction. It motivates me so much more to want to keep going, and it's the same for these students. You give them it could be something simple like, hey, like here's your shoes, congratulations, but you're doing a great job and you're doing amazing, and I'm cheering you on. That small amount of positivity really makes a difference, and I really would love for everyone who's listening and everyone who meets me in the future to know that I really love when we do that. I want to see us do it more often than not.
Hmm.
And I know we all go through something and we're all going through our own journeys, but let's cheer each other on.
Amazing note to end on. Positivity, pass it on. And that's going from
Yes.
May, from myself to all of you listening. Thank you, May, for taking the time to be with us, sharing your story, and sharing the great work that you've been doing in Shoes for Scholars. Um, this is another episode of the AAPI Leadership Lab. I'm your host, Rico. We will see you next time. Thanks, all.
Thank you.